Scott has over 25 years in the IT industry as a sysadmin and IT manager. In 2009, Scott bought a small IT consulting firm, which he grew into a profitable MSP business, which he then sold in 2018, merging the company with Allixo Technologies. Scott has been a managing owner at Allixo since joining and has spent the last 4 years in charge of operations, where he's focused on developing a profit-first mindset with co-owners, hiring the right people, and developing processes and procedures for Agile service delivery. So Scott, welcome. Really excited to hear your story. I'll stop sharing my screen so you can have the floor. Just give me 1 second and I'll get out of your way here.
No worries. So, well, I'm really excited to just be able to meet with all of you guys. My first virtual event, so it's a little bit different. Being able to see everybody here is kind of nice. So I figured I would start out just by sharing a little bit of my background briefly, and then kind of talk about how kind of started developing an agile mindset. And after watching Melvin's presentation, it's like, I remember doing that. That's what we did. Yeah, that's great stuff. Taking notes and even new stuff to grab and apply in our business. Before I started in business ownership, I was an industrial design engineer. I kind of worked my way up from working at a Bayliner in an engineering department to more of a design type person. Worked for a medical laser manufacturing company, first in QA, and then moved into design engineer aspect. And so there's always a part of me that has this like a process and workflow mindset to it, just kind of in that background. I was given an opportunity in the 90s to work for an IT consulting company after I finished working in the medical laser manufacturing business. And it was a small firm. There's just two of us. And we had, I don't know, a handful of clients, kept both of us very busy. I had an opportunity then to move on to managing several different businesses for one owner. He had a large electrical contracting company, and his family had multiple businesses. And so I took care of IT basically for all of those. And the electrical contracting company, they I think pushed around 120 million in revenue, lots of big jobs around the Northwest. And had a small team of guys working for me. And then after I think it was about 9 years working there, the original IT consulting guy I worked with called me and said, "Hey, I'm moving to Ecuador to help my wife's family out, and was curious if you'd be interested in buying my company." And so in 2009, I kind of, after a lot of thought and prayer and things like that, consulting with different business people, bought the company and started the journey. And a part of that was taking what he had of just a few IT companies he did IT consulting for. He had also opened a small retail computer repair shop. So they had inventory, parts, pieces, systems you could buy, bring your computers in for repair. And I was really interested right at the beginning of that in what the IT industry was doing. And I started reading a lot about MSPs, right? Managed service providers, and got really interested in where that could go. And so the first year of owning it, I didn't have a background in business, so it was kind of a rough but break-even year. The second year was a little bit rougher. We lost a little bit of money, but I started really looking for ways to grow and change my MSP business and make it more profitable. The third year, we really started hitting our stride. We were making pretty good money. And then for the next following 6 years, we just kept growing every year, and our profit increased. And a large part of that was building a really good team. And I remember one of the first things I bought was, and some of you may have heard of it or have been involved in it, was the technology marketing toolkit, Robin Robbins. I bought it, started looking through it, and I shelved it. I was just like, I'm not ready for this. There was certain aspects for me. Integrity is huge in doing business. And so there was a lot of things in her material talking about guarantees, guaranteeing your work, guarantee your response times and things like that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this right now. So I started to look at how I could get to that point. And one of the next things that helped me make that next step is reading the book E-Myth Revisited. And I don't know if any of you guys have read that book. It's a great book. It really started getting me thinking about the next step and the next progression of my business, and getting me, the main engineer, to be able to really work and think about my business and work on it versus working in it. And that's where really the processes began to kind of develop, and making the procedures that some of the guys could do that worked for me, training up my manager, who was basically the store manager, and really try to understand how to work on that business better as a business owner versus being a technician. The next book I read is The Pumpkin Plan. And that really got me thinking about, how do I make the next steps to make the business better? And, do we keep doing all the things we've been doing? Who do we highlight? And what, so a big part of that book is cutting out, things that maybe you're not as good at, or things that aren't quite as profitable. And that really helped me get focused. So one thing that happened almost immediately was realizing that retail sales for us and the retail computer aspect of the business just wasn't very profitable. I don't know if you guys have experienced that, but it just was a huge drain. It was a huge drain on my team. Retail clients had a total different mindset than business clients. And we really started to see on the business side of things, that's really where the profit and the money was. So we decided to basically shut down all that retail business. It was a step of faith because, there was revenue there, but it was a great step, and it really allowed us to even start moving faster. And I knew I really needed to continue developing my team. And one of the things that helped me start understanding how that worked is I read the book Melvin talked about, Five Dysfunctions of a Team. And I started doing retreats with my guys, started going through building that trust with the team, encouraging them to bring their ideas to the table. I really kind of began that mindset of, I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. I don't want to be the only guy capable of certain high level aspects of work. So really encouraging them to further their skill sets, further education, and things like that. And I think it was probably the 4th or 5th year, I had an opportunity to go to one of the Robin Robbins road shows that she had in Seattle. So I went, and it was kind of like an eye-opening experience as far as like just marketing, sales aspect side of things that I had never really looked at before. I got pretty excited about it. I joined the Producers Club, and it really helped me. The peer group side of that really helped me start making even more improvements in the business. And as far as services, what we would start to begin to offer, brainstorming those kinds of things. And so we kind of really hit our stride. We were super profitable. And then I think it was 2018, I had some staffing changes. I had a lead engineer leave. I had my manager had to leave for some personal family health reasons. And so as I was thinking about kind of hitting the reset button and starting over and retraining those key people, there was a company in my town. I had known the guys running it for years and years, since they were actually younger, one of the guys who owned it was my daughter's youth pastor or youth director for a time. And so I just had this idea, and we had batted around, I don't know, every couple of years we'd kind of say, hey, we should talk about what it would be like if we merged. But things were just always too busy and we never really did it. And so I texted him. I was sitting in my conference room and texted him. He was replied right away. He was up in Vancouver at a EO event, I believe. And I said, hey, do you got a few minutes for a call? He's like, yeah, sure. And I gave him a call and I just said, hey, I'm kind of at this crossroads and I'm really at this turning point of, do I retrain and rebuild my staff, or would this be a good time for us to merge? And if you've already got some key people in those positions. I mean, for me, I was looking at it like, hey, I don't have to be the only guy worrying about the business side of things, doing all the financial things. And he's like, well, yeah, let me go back and talk to our owners and see what we can do. And they had four owners at that time. And he came back and it's like, yeah, let's see what that looks like. And so we took about 6 months doing due diligence and made an offer to buy my company. And we, in November of 2018, merged our companies. And I think combined, that brought our staff to 22 employees. I think all my staff came over with me. Yeah, so we had 22 combined staff, brought our combined revenue to around 3.1 million. And so it was an exciting time, but it was also a chaotic time. That many staff, merging customers and clients and trying to pull all that stuff together, it was kind of chaos. And I started out, my position was growth manager, and really with the goal of bringing in kind of the same things I've been working on marketing wise through the Producers Club into Allixo. And as sales began happening and we began executing projects, I just really found that there was a lot of kind of operational chaos and there were projects not getting done on time. I think Wim mentioned that at the start of the boot camp here is, we had some clients leave because project execution was poor. And so we'd lost some pretty significant sized customers, which is always a big hit. And so I started to take on some oversight of our smaller projects, worksite, on-site work, because the project delivery side of things, there was some very loose constraints on that team. And there wasn't a lot of expectation as far as like billable time. And so when I jumped into ConnectWise to look at the situation with the projects, there was over 300 open projects in ConnectWise. And that, for me, who's kind of more of like a detail oriented person, I like to keep my inbox, to as few emails as I can. I process those out. And so like I see someone else's inbox that's got, 1,600 unread emails. And I'm like, how do you deal with that? So to go in and see all these projects, and some of them dated back, 2-3 years, and they were still open. And so I started digging into those. And I had 2 guys that were previous technicians on my growth team. And so we kind of set out to help our tech team by just trying to find the oldest things that we could find that were still out there. And if we could help them get those things done so we could get them off the service board, off the project board. Lots of the projects were running way over budget. And so there was kind of this perception that we were making money, but by the time the projects were getting delivered, we weren't really making money. We were kind of losing money. Our customer service rating at that time, I think, was around, but it would bounce between 70 and 80%. And when it got to 80%, we'd get pretty excited. By the end of 2018, and seeing some of these things and seeing clients leave, I sent a letter over to the rest of the owners, just an email that kind of laid out just some things I was seeing and some ideas I had to help resolve some of those things. And our CEO at that time texted me, said, "Hey, let's go grab dinner." And so we went and had dinner, and we kind of talked about some of the issues. And he was like, "I really think you should just become chief of operations and take over operations and kind of work that in with their attention to detail and your empathy toward client combination. I think that'd be really good." So in 2019, I became a managing member, which I already was, and the chief operations officer. So I took over managing all aspects of service delivery, customer satisfaction. The state of the team was like just a lot of burnout. The service manager at the time kind of had the 1,000-yard stare. They were really siloed. So there was the service desk team and the project team, and they were completely autonomous of each other. As I started really kind of looking at the team, there was a lot of really lower level skilled technicians. A lot of the work was falling on the service manager, and a lot of times after doing time review and things like that, he was staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning, right? And then get up the next day and come back and do it, because all of the big technical issues were falling on him, because there's just not enough skill in the team to take care of some of those things. And because all those things were falling on him, client environments were less than ideal, because there's just no time for like a skilled engineer to come in and do that. And I think a lot of that had to do with how quickly Allixo had grown over the previous few years, bringing on clients and just bringing on underskilled team members who, their Google foo wasn't up to par, and their skill sets weren't maybe up to par with kind of the tasks that needed to get done. The service desk, I think at that time, the average open ticket count was around, it bounced between 270, 320. And there's very loose constraints. It was like Melvin had mentioned, there's a lot of the cherry picking, right? Like people would grab the ones they felt comfortable with, leaving the bulk of the work to fall on the one engineer who could kind of do them. And so it caused a lot of stress. I remember several of the techs just kind of running around like chickens with their heads cut off. They were stressed out. Nobody took ownership for their responsibilities or their tickets. And that kind of got me started thinking on how do we get things under control. And just kind of a quick overview of our service delivery was kind of twofold. There was like a basic service desk, help desk, and then we serviced 3 pretty good sized radiology companies, and that was 24/7 support. So we had on call guys getting woken up anytime there was an issue with any of the radiology clients. So everyone was pretty burnt out and stressed out. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to get technical people moving all in the same direction, but it's a lot like herding cats. And so we kind of started working with the service manager. How can we kind of rein in this chaos and get things moving toward some sanity, really? And we decided to reorganize the company. We divided into 4 groups. We had a growth department managed by the CEO, the professional services department managed by myself. We basically decided to move all of the onboarding tool set stuff to an NSOC team. And so the former service desk manager took that over and managed that. And so their job was to focus on the tool stack, functionality, operation, onboarding clients. My job was to manage the service desk, coordination, project delivery, and the growth team focused on sales and marketing. And so that helped a bit. It helped us be able to just start to rein in and put some constraints. We had better opportunity to manage different team members that way, and kind of start build some ownership with the team. But I really felt like we also didn't have the right people. So we really started looking for a way to hire the right people. I read a book called Top Grading, and the premise of that book is to hire up, right? Like hire the highest level person that you can, that's what's going to set your company apart. That's what's going to bring you relief. And like, I always kind of had that mindset. I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. I want to hire the smartest guy so that, we can work together to do what's right as far as the company is concerned, growth process wise. So we hired a new service manager. The service desk improved a little bit, but the ticket count stayed the same. And within a year, he burned out and left the company. So we basically had saved our one service manager, moved him to the NSOC, hired a guy, and the pressure was too much. And he was experienced. He had several years experience managing or taking care of IT. So we started again looking for some top players, some A players, and we started building out our job descriptions and things like that along that line. So we really wanted to bring in some really experienced people. We knew we were going to have to pay for it. And so we just worked the best we could within our budget to get the highest skilled people that we could. We hired 3 pretty experienced engineers. We got really lucky because they were kind of looking for work in our area at that time. One of them had great experience at a couple different MSPs, and we laid off our project manager. And it really helped us start to see where people were kind of hiding behind the mass of tickets and not really getting a lot done. And as soon as we started bringing that accountability, it really helped people move on from Allixo who weren't a good fit. And kind of the next phase of that was with that new team reading extreme ownership and building out this new team. So we created leads for each of those departments that we had. So I had a coordination lead, a service desk lead, the NSOC project lead, and radiology lead. And I began meeting with that team weekly and going through the book Extreme Ownership. Then 2020 happened and COVID hit. And so that kind of slowed things down, but it really got me thinking more about how now do we continue to work through this massive backlog of work and get our CSAT levels up where they should be. And that really led me to Agile. And I'd done a couple different things with the Polychucks, and Manuel had a peer group Agile introduction course. And I took that and was like turned on right away. Like, oh my gosh, this is what we need to do. So I started meeting with the leads and started looking about how we could simplify our workflows, how we could simplify the processes, procedures, how we handle work, where our roadblocks were, where are things getting hung up. And that led me to finding Kanban for ConnectWise, now TopLeft. And we started building out how we could start doing that for our team. So we totally did a revamp of our tickets, statuses, work types, all those kinds of things. And we restructured again a little bit. And so within our service desk, we broke out those 2 teams completely to where we had a set of radiology focused guys, and then we had our service desk guys, and they each just took on that work. And we ended up hiring a company out of the UK for the midnight to 8 a.m., 7 a.m. Pacific time shift for radiology. And that really helped alleviate a lot of the stress off of our team as well. So they weren't having to do on call, getting woken up in the middle of the night, which was a lot of stress for them. So we built out a Kanban board structure and gave all the team kind of the gist of it and asked them to go ahead and start doing it. So we did get some pushback initially. I didn't find it out right away. We kind of built out the Kanban boards for each group, revamped our tickets, and really trained the guys on the pull style ticket assignment versus dispatch. The leads all oversaw the work distribution and the skill set and being accountable with the technicians on what work they could do and accomplish. We had a daily routine standing operator procedure that we built, which I've shared with Stephen if anyone's interested in that. And it's basically hey, this is what a technician working in kind of this agile mindset should do, and process their work and look at their work each day. And the results began to speak for themselves. Over time, our ticket count began dropping. We went from weeks to months old tickets to just, a few days to maybe a couple weeks at the most. I found out kind of secondhand as I started meeting with each of the technicians and kind of walking through the process with them, what they were doing. And there was a few on the radiology team that just weren't adopting the Kanban flow and the board. And I met with one of them and he actually told me, oh, well, our lead said we don't really need to do that. It's not going to be beneficial. It's not really going to work. I was like, okay. So how do I approach that? And so I met with the lead, walked through it with him, and I was like, you need to do this with your team. And I met with each of his team again, training them just on the flow and how it worked. And I think it took about a month. And he came to my office. I never told him the technician had kind of ratted him out, but he came back to my office and he said, hey, I just need to apologize to you because this has absolutely changed everything for us. Like our stress is gone. The flow of work and the backlog of tickets is gone. This is so easy to track everything, to know exactly what we're supposed to be doing. Like the expectations are all right there in front of us. And the change is amazing. So he apologized. He said, I actually was against it. I was telling my guys to not follow along, but to keep doing things as they were. And then he became one of the biggest proponents of Kanban style flows in the company. And he held a daily scrum with his team just to stand up. They hashed out any issues. So that was like a big win for us. One of the other things that we did was our CTO now and the CEO, they're just geniuses at Bright Gauge and flows. And that's one of the things that really, when we were looking at merging and they were showing me what they were doing with being able to track so much data and provide it back to clients, really excited me about what they were doing. But we began to track ticket counts, tech efficiency, agreement profitability, and really bringing all of that stuff to the forefront for our owners meetings and things like that. It really helped us begin to make these changes. Our growth team started to simplify. Agile is kind of this mindset and framework, and we look at it a lot for service related items, but really you can look at it as a way to evaluate your whole company. So not just your service delivery, but how is sales and marketing operating? Are they agile and lean? How about your finance team? Are they operating lean? And so we started to look at our whole company that same way. And we began to simplify product offerings like our service stack, which simplified our service delivery and project implementation. Our internal systems required for supporting clients became simpler. And with all of that, became less stress, less back-end work, higher client satisfaction. Our finance team, our head finance guy, got us into service leadership. And we began measuring our operational maturity against their industry guidelines. And that really helped us to focus on different aspects of growing our company in different areas and begin maturing our sales and marketing, our finance, our operations, service delivery, all those kinds of things. Our billing for equipment and projects was simplified and really helped with cash flow issues. We stopped offering unlimited help desk. We never had an objection. And all of that really impacted our CSAT. Our CSAT grew up and I think started staying above 90% at that point in time. And we really simplified our invoicing. So our clients get a really simple invoice and no questions ever on any of those things and changes that we were making. What all of that brought was just really like this huge stress relief, like just pressure off my shoulders, started affecting the pressure on the different owners in their operating arenas. The new norm became efficiency, tracking things in real time. We kept focusing with our technicians on working with an agile mindset. Ticket counts again plummeted. I think we could drop down to around 50, 60 on average tickets on our board. The efficiency gains led to our team having more time to invest in our client environments and going in and implementing best practices. So that helped reduce ticket count, issue calls. It allowed us to up our game in documentation so that when we did have issues, there was clearly outlined documentation and processes and procedures to walk through. We changed how those technicians were working kind of with those haphazard touches to working a ticket to completion. So they'd take that ticket, work it till it was complete. And rather than one issue was, a tech would just jump into a ticket, email through the ticket, go to the next ticket, email through the ticket. So we just have this huge buildup. Now we train them to pick up the phone, call, get all the information that you need, take that ticket done to completion. That way they would have the correct information right away to get that ticket completed. The Kanban boards greatly increased our visibility into our work, what work was getting done, who was doing the work. Bright Gauge allowed us to have conversations with techs about tickets. And if they were holding tickets too long and helping escalate that ticket to an engineer quicker, the skill set to help move it along and really coached them on training and building that documentation so the lower skilled or less experienced technicians could do that work. So the way it impacted our service was just the decrease in requests gave us an abundance of time to clean up and implement best practices across our client base. Where we divided and conquered before, we consolidated our teams. So we disbanded our dispatch department completely. We no longer needed it because of the way we were handling those tickets, incoming calls, and direct contact with the technicians. We disbanded the NSOC team. We added really quality guys there that brought more engineering experience to the service delivery abroad. And so we consolidated that. They began working with the team. So our skill set on our service desk suddenly right-sided and became very top-sided. And I know you guys know that if you have tier 3 engineer working on the issue, what we found was they could handle 5-10 times more service requests faster, resolve quicker with better outcomes. And so that's that whole top grading idea, right? Like you're hiring those quality people and the service work gets done a lot quicker, more efficiently, better. CSAT kicked up. I think we average above 95%. I can't remember the last time I had a client complain about service. If I thought really hard about it, it would have to be, 3 years ago where we ever had a complaint. The complaint now is you guys respond too fast. Seriously, I've had 3 or 4 different points of contact with companies tell us like, hey, give us, if we submit a ticket, give us, 15, 20 minutes before you guys respond. Because we were getting back to them in 5 minutes and generally getting the ticket resolved in, 10 to 15 minutes, which was huge. We got rid of our automated ticket responses. We had a lot of that kind of built in and became more a human touch. And our project holdups were gone, largely waiting on clients to move the ball forward and let us get the work done that we needed to get done instead of waiting on our team. So our project profitability has skyrocketed compared to what it was before we started thinking through things like with an agile mindset and using Kanban in our flows. We limited our offerings from several, like I mentioned before, to just two. And that kind of led us into the impact in our sales group. So their processes and presentations greatly simplified. The sales quotes basically became the agreements. We started transitioning our clients from our old plans to our new offering, and we're almost nearly finished. We just have a handful of holdouts. If clients aren't ready to move to our current set, we give them a warm referral to a third party who'd suit them, right? We're pumpkin planning. Like we know what we're good at. We know how to do what we're good at. And if a client's not a fit, like no harm, no foul, like we just want to help you move to somebody that's going to work for you. And that's worked out really well for us. Overall, the impact on our finance has just been like smooth sailing. Nothing reduces stress in owner meetings or just those kind of conversations, like a healthy bottom line. In 2018, we were technically losing money. We implemented deferred revenue for our projects so that our actual earnings matched the work that we were producing at the time. We charge more upfront. We're not a bank, so we bill 100% of our projects upfront to a certain amount. If it's under 20K, if it's over 20K, we get 50% upfront, and then the balance within 60 days, regardless of the project status, because generally we are waiting on our client to let us get the work done. And we haven't had any complaints about that. I'll share just some quick numbers with you guys. 2019, our top line revenue was 3.9 million. I think we were less than 9% EBITDA. In 2020, our top line revenue was 3.4 million, excluding PPP, with a 5% EBITDA. And that included shutting down our radiology business. We actually had that client was bought by a capital investment company, and they kind of moved things in-house over a couple of years. So that was nearly $1 million revenue loss for the year. In 2021, our top line revenue was 3.4 million, 10% EBITDA. And so that profit started shifting and swinging up, which was great for the company and for the owners. Kind of going forward, how we continue to look at things, we continue to evaluate our people and nurturing Kaizen, continual improvement. How can we look at continually improving our people, our systems that we have in place, and our services, including finance? One of the first things I did, I forgot to mention when I started as the operations officer, is an owner group. We all read the book Profit First, and that brought all of us to the same page and mindset as far as like how we're going to run the company. Great book. I recommend reading it if you haven't, and really helped us in how we viewed things, expenses and whatnot. So we want to be a company that people love working for and being a part of. And so we're constantly seeing what we can do to take care of them best, whether it's salaries, benefits, perks, right? We want to have all the right people on the bus and working in the right places, and they're gifting our systems. We're currently implementing a huge change to our tool stack. So we've been running on ConnectWise and their platform for years and years and years. And over the last year and a half, 2 years, we really began asking the question, do we need to do this? Is this how we should operate? We started looking at what other MSPs are doing. We're basically moving off of ConnectWise onto a new platform. This change alone is going to net back to our bottom line $10K a month in expenses. So we're super excited about that. We really started asking ourselves, is our building that we're in the right size building? What can we do with more people working remote? Making a big change there. It's netting back to our bottom line. We continue to look at and improve our service offering and how we deliver that to our clients. And in finance, profit first. Reviewing our salaries, making changes that affect the bottom line. The most current changes we're implementing right now is going to net us back $15K a month starting in October. So we're pretty excited about that. Our projected revenue for 2022 is going to be around 3.2 million with the EBITDA of 17%, which is a 50% increase in profit over last year. So we're pretty excited. So for me, the Agile mindset really has brought a quality of life that I didn't have before. You can think about where I started, the kind of things that we were doing, the stress that we were under, into the merger, the chaos and the stress there. Implementing this has just reduced stress. It's given us better visibility into the business, better efficiency, less stress for our technicians, less stress for the owners, higher client satisfaction. As of today, we're sitting at 100% CSAT rating. Our ticket count right now is 15, and we haven't lost a client in 2 years, and our clients have been loving working with us. So, and again, that's just a tribute to the team that we have. These guys are great. We're all rowing in the same direction. So when I started, if you think back to that initial diagram or photo of the backpacker, right, getting ready to head out into the mountains, I didn't think I'm going to build an agile business. What I thought was, I want to delight my customers. I want our services to be awesome. I want our team to be awesome. I want to evaluate our enterprise and company and how we do things and make that great. And if you look at like PMI, they've got 7 principles of disciplined agile. Those are the 7 principles. Delight customers, be awesome, enterprise awareness, be pragmatic, context counts, choice is good, and optimizing flow. And so that's really kind of what took place over the last 4 years for Allixo. It's pretty exciting for us. And that kind of brings me to the end of what I presented. Like I said, I've got a couple of documents I shared with Stephen on our Kanban setup, how we have our ticket statuses and whatnot, and then how we have our techs work, kind of that SOP for Agile mindset.
Yeah, Scott, amazing. Really appreciate the storytelling approach to your talk, and the fact that, you know, some of the things that you mentioned were some of the things that Melvin raised in his talk. And so, yeah, a lot of great insight. If you do have questions, we do have time for some. I do see 2 in the chat that I'll raise in just a little bit, but if you have some, please raise those. I do want to just mention something that Scott brought up. He did share a couple of documents with me that put a little bit more meat on the bones of what he was talking about. And I'll make sure that those get to each one of you so that you can have those for your reference. But let me go to some of the questions here. One from Jason: how bad or good was losing that radiology client to making the agile move, and how did it impact the team and profitability?
So it was like we kind of had a year's notice, a little bit more than a year. So we kind of knew they were going away on the previous year's agreement renewal. We kind of got the impression that they were going to want to move away and bring things in-house. And so it wasn't a huge surprise, but man, it was still a hit, because that was a big hole we had to backfill. And I have to give kudos to our CEO who backfilled it in like 3 months. I mean, it was amazing, but things worked out. It kind of worked out from the aspect of a little bit of desperation, but then also when COVID hit, it really brought our offering to the forefront because of just the remote nature of work, and clients just started kind of adopting it and pulling it in.
Very cool. Yeah, thank you for that, Scott. Great question, Jason. And then both Bill and Guy have a similar question, so I'll just combine them to ask the same one. What platform or what PSA are you moving to if you're moving away from ConnectWise?
So we're moving to Excello. We took a hard look at it. We ran a full demo in it. And as a group, we meet the 3 owners and then our engineering team. We're constantly evaluating product out there. And we really decided, do we need to approach the industry how the industry is telling us we need to, or can we look and operate out of a platform that maybe isn't? And so what we found was a few MSPs actually already using Excello. Got to meet and talk with them, and I'm pretty stoked about it. I mean, just a little bit, we're in the middle of implementation, and even their implementation and their implementation team is we're taking aspects of that and like, hey, we're going to build out our project kickoffs the way that these guys do it, because it's so just top notch. Yeah.
Great. Thanks for that feedback. And Jody has a really interesting question. How long did it take, Scott, for your team to fully adopt the Agile methodology and for you to start seeing the benefits?
I would say within a quarter, because I was meeting with the leads consistently and we were pushing that, and they were already on board, except for the one radiology guy. And I would say the results probably within that time frame, because the ticket counts just started dropping. And our CEO was working remote for most of COVID, and he'd come down and see our ticket count on the board and be like, are you serious? Are you guys kidding me? That's our ticket count. And he's pretty good friends with the service manager that had burnt out. And so he had told him, hey, this is what our ticket count's at now. He's like, I don't believe you. There's no way. So, and that's with, other than radiology, it's with the same amount of clients, endpoints, right? So we're still servicing that amount of endpoints and bringing on new endpoints to support, and we're still at 15 tickets right now.
Amazing. I have a question for you, Scott, as some of them still roll in, but one of your headings on one of your slides was operational tranquility. It sounds like a dream. Is it, you kept bringing up the word simplify. Is it fair to say that that word simplify is a synonym of agile? Is it that simple?
I think so. When you think of agile and lean, right, you're looking at ways to keep things simple. That way you can adopt quickly, right? That whole methodology of agile, like I want to be able to look in this direction. We're making this platform change from Excello to Excello. It's going to be a 2-month deal. And so we've got the cycles to do it because our team's operating so efficiently. Otherwise, it'd be months.
Right. Yeah, I get it. We have time for one more, and it's from Jason. You moved away from all-you-can-eat help desk to what?
So it's the way that our agreement, or we build out our proposal, is we look at the average consumption of the client, and then we'll basically give them that bucket of hours, excluding infrastructure. So infrastructure is all included in their agreement, and the monitoring and things like that, tools, and then any service desk consumption beyond their bucket of hours they pay for. So if they go over 5 hours, they begin paying hourly for that. What that has done is it helped the clients who would call us for every little thing not use us as that kind of IT company. Like, trying to think of an example, but every little thing, right? So if they just overconsume, your team, we're a finite resource. So we need to be able to charge appropriately for our resources. So the whole unlimited thing, we just decided to get rid of that, and everyone's been happy with it. The principals of all of our clients understand the idea because they're trying to make money too, right? So we just took I think it was like a 6-month average, said this is what your new hourly bucket's going to be. And if you go over that, and we're gracious, right? If they go over 1 month and they're under 1 month, we just keep evaluating it, and we'll shrink the hours or grow the hours based on a quarter.
Right on. Well, Scott, thanks again for the way that you helped us to begin to understand to a deeper level what this idea of agile is and how we can use it to transform our businesses. So thanks again. Really appreciate your insights.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, that's awesome.